Okay, let's go. Shall we try?
Yeah. Okay. Russian people sometimes say that we are very gray, have not so much emotions outside, don't show our emotions, buttoned up. How do you think? What is it?
Compared to what people feel, that's probably true.
Yeah, compared to what people
To what
feel.
people
Right,
feel.
Yes,
Yes?
yes, yes.
And maybe Russians believe that maybe one of the roles in Russia is if I'm coming out as who I truly am, I'm too much for everybody. And maybe that's true. If everybody in Moscow would come out with who they truly were, maybe it'd be too much for everybody. Some people, some nationalities, some countries are a little bit flat. And then some cultures apparently have like so much. And then it at times appears through history as it's a little bit gray or flat, but it doesn't take a lot for Russians to come out. You know, it's not a lot of work to get to assist or to facilitate Russians to come out with everything, including all the beautiful parts, which is aggression, power, a sense of largeness and bigness that belongs to the country.
I was thinking relationship between business and power in Russia. Lots of businessmen in Russia say that the government is too, suppressive and it's really
too
hard,
powerful.
Too powerful, and it's really hard to make business. And it's actually scary to have business in Russia because you're always under a fear.
Well, you know, as an outsider, by outsider I mean as a person who's not Russian and not living in Russia, I definitely should keep my mouth shut about Russian family matters. No family likes outsiders to comment on their family dynamics. Most Russians that I meet complain about some other Russians too big of a power, which means maybe all Russians have too much power. So, or a fun way to say it is maybe Russia is just very powerful. I mean, it is the largest country on the planet. So that comes built in with a power issue. Like, think of this apartment here, and think in this apartment you have a bear and a cat and a mouse. There's going to be a power issue around, and most definitely the bear is going to end up with like a major power debate. How much power do I have, should I use? Because it happens to be the biggest and the most powerful one. That's a healthy and good discussion. So I think the whole debate in Russia about who has more power, should you be afraid or whatever, all is a part of the beauty and the power of Russia as a whole. So from the outside, I want to say to Russia, yes, you're powerful. Government, yes, you're powerful. Business, yes, you're amazingly powerful. And those who are not in the business and who are not in the government, you're powerful too, and the creative.
I'm having an idea, so maybe we can talk about the seminar, because through the last days we had a seminar, and there are like some processes there that would be maybe interesting to discuss. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what was the interesting processes did you see? What was interesting for you in the seminar? What roles? What people?
It's interesting if you think that many people in the seminar went through emotional experiences, they did the exercises, they learned more about who they are. And as you saw in the seminar, it included subtle altered states and emotional states. And overall, many people said they liked and learned from that. The group process, we sorted, if you remember, from a bunch of various topics. And the group decided to work on passivity and resignation. And that is what we call a ghost role. Passivity and resignation usually is not being owned as such. With other words, people suffer from it. They think, I don't have enough energy, I'm tired, but they don't think of themselves as, I'm passive, I have resigned. For example, we worked with an individual, And then he said, for example, I sometimes wake up in the morning, I'm tired. So I thought it was interesting how the group says, we want to work on something that we think is a Russian, we as a group experience at times is a Russian phenomena. And then an individual that actually complains about that state. And people didn't remember that anymore. You can see like non-local effects. So the group worked there. And I thought the part that was very interesting that in my mind that came out was what looks like passivity and resignation on the one side actually turned out in its essence to be a sense of openness to one's fate and a hope and a trust into the power of the land and the power of Russian history and soul. That's a very special Russian perspective in my mind. I live in Russia, I live on Russian soil, and Mother Russia, in her own way, will take care of it over time. I don't have to do as much as I might think. It's very deep, it's very deep. So I thought that was amazing to see that on the one side, and then on the other side, that group that says, hey, let's do something. We need to do something now. Frequently, that's not seen about Russia. The incredible creativity and the radical revolutionary power. I mean, the Russian Revolution didn't come out of, it was no accident that the Russian Revolution happened in Russia. Because it's very much part of the Russian spirit. If the Russians finally then decide to change something, it happens quickly, rapidly, and without much expectation. That was even true for perestroika. Nobody ever thought it was going to happen, but when it didn't happen, it happened like this. And maybe that's true for individuals too. Maybe individuals have long periods where they seem to be doing not much, but then suddenly they do a lot very quickly and very powerfully. So I thought that those seemingly opposing forces came out in that seminar as really enhancing each other. Versus work, pause, work, pause. You follow? It's a very different rhythm and style. So you saw that in the group process, and you saw that in the various states that came up. And then like in your work, for example, where you say we need structure, it has to be in a way how it's always been done, tradition. In the tradition you can see a rigidity and a not wanting to change quickly, which many Russians will know. And we experience our various organizations as small governments who don't allow us to develop. Yeah?
Yep.
And then on the other side, individuals who say, well, but I need to develop and I'm going to do something anyhow, and I need the freedom to experiment. So you could saw in your own issue that you were working within your own network, those two roles appear again, finding new creative solutions. So you can think, everybody is listening to the same music. No, that's the idea. But your own way of the creative dance steps with which you dance to that music, you are free to do. You can't change the music that's playing. The music is being played by the field. But how you do your own particular moves with the music, if you're going to do this or this or this, you're going to dance in the rhythm. But the creativity of how to do that you saw in this seminar, that's very individual and different.
It's interesting. Yeah, I like the comparison. And you're saying that the one of the Russian styles is to, lay back and then quickly change.
Apparently, yes.
Apparently, yes. So this one of the things that some Russian people are really afraid, the revolution, that something will happen.
That's why they're afraid of. You cannot be afraid of something that you don't know is a fact. If people say I'm afraid of this, that means I know it's a fact and I'm actually like that also.
But you don't think that it needs to be changed? So you think it's our style and we have to be like proud of it? Like,
yeah, exactly. People are afraid of what?
People are afraid of, like, we live, you know, very good life or bad life, but constant life, you know, things don't change, we get used to things, and then suddenly something happens, people get killed, families get broken up, government changes, rules changes, and we're not prepared to that. So people are afraid of revolutions, people are afraid of sudden changes, yeah.
And then during revolutions, people or the revolutionaries are afraid of stagnation, resignation. So those are relative viewpoints. And as these sides, like we saw in the group process, start to approach each other and start to understand each other better, that's the future of Russia, in my mind. In periods of quietness, for some stagnation, for others peace, there will still be a connection to your own creative fun spirit. And during periods of quick changes and radicalness, there will still be a memory of Mother Russia doesn't change. So as these things come more together over time, they'll be experienced as less fragmented. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's the fragmentation. The individual things are not so scary. It's the fact that they appear fragmented. That's what's scary about it.
And at the seminar, you said that group process showed the future of Russia. Maybe you can say a little bit about that?
That the two sides
So,
are making more direct contact with each other.
even if it means fight?
Had a discussion the other day with a Russian person who said, he said to me, I don't know what happens with democracy in Russia. Yes? I'm sure you heard.
Yeah.
There is now tendencies that this and this happens. And from our viewpoint, we would say, well, actually, democracy, if democracy happens or not, I can't say. I don't live in Russia. But from that perspective, I know the fact that he can say that shows that democracy is happening.
Right.
No, democracy doesn't mean democracy. Democracy means, among other things, you complain about the fact that democracy isn't happening.
Right.
Can you follow
Yeah,
that?
yeah.
So there is contact and there is dialogue. People do talk and write about it. Russia is, in my opinion or our opinion, is a changing nation with a lot of polarities. And there will be and appears to be a lot of contact. The more contact between these polarities, the better. I don't think the government, from our perspective, we wouldn't say the government needs to change or the business needs to change. They need to have contact, and some of that contact is going to be conflictual and harsh. That belongs to developing a society.
Широко, широко разлилась река, широко, широко разлилась река. Широко, широко разбрелись луга, широко, широко разлеглись поля. Шире того свет благодати.